Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, where fans enjoy some thrills and spills, the possible changes for a historic site where summer memories are born.
President Obama said when the historic nuclear deal with Iran is finalized, it will make our country, our allies, and our world safer. I'm Peggy Pico with what Iran must do and why it matters. Then, the second annual Ben Vereen Awards in San Diego offers high school students a shot at performing on Broadway. Actor Ben Vereen joins us with what's new this year and reveals a few of his other projects.
I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would have a life like I have today when I was your age. So anyway, thanks.
Building a new life after a painful childhood, the path that led a San Diego City Councilwoman into a career in politics. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. A tentative contract tonight that brought back workers to the West Coast ports. It received a stamp of approval from union delegates. Today's vote urges members to approve the 5-year deal. Difficult negotiations over the contract led to major disruptions. Experts say it tied up billions of dollars of international trade at seaports from San Diego to Seattle. Union leaders say a final count of the votes will be held next month. A classic amusement park at Mission Beach will be the focus of a city council debate on Monday. It's the second time council will vote to amend its lease with the company that operates the Belmont Park roller coaster and plunge. Now, some members questioned if taxpayers were getting enough money in return from such a popular attraction. A new lease could raise the rent by about $250,000 a year and require Pacifica Enterprises to pay for millions in repairs and upgrades. On the political desk, San Diego City Councilwoman Lori Zaff has been elected twice in 2 different districts. Her path into politics wasn't easy. KPBS's Claire Trageser brings us actually this profile of the councilwoman who shared stories from her painful childhood to give kids hope for the future.
One evening last month, Lori Zaff was talking about personal topics that don't usually come up at the city council.
That we were just like moving all the time. My mother used to beat the crap out of us. She would get angry, go into like these like alcoholic fits, and would just like be really, really abusive. Hi, what's your name?
Zaff was in City Heights talking to teenagers about her own background as part of an after-school program called Reality Changers.
And then when you get to my age, you look back on it and you go, did all that really happen? How could people be like that? Your own parents, right, to you.
Council member Lori Zaff. Lori!
The 56-year-old says she had a challenging childhood in Los Angeles.
I ended up eventually in a foster home. My brother, sister, and I were separated and put into separate foster homes. And actually, that was the first time I had any stability. I think I attended about 13 different schools, and I wasn't even in the military.
Well, thank you. And I know going out in the community and having, been talking about this the past few weeks, the community's really happy that
her foster parents put her on the path that eventually led her to politics.
They were actually role models and really inspired me and showed me a whole different life. And I really give them all the credit for, who I am today.
She went to Cal State Northridge, then got a master's degree at the University of Denver. While going to school in Colorado,
along comes this tourist from San Diego, and we started talking on the Pearl Street Mall in Boulder. And next thing I knew, we were long-distance dating, and not too long after that, we got engaged, and I moved to San Diego. So here I am.
Zaff was first elected in 2010. This past December, she was sworn in again, but the ceremony was marred. One of her staffers was overheard by a KPBS reporter saying she, quote, wanted to shoot people there protesting police brutality. Zaff suspended the staffer without pay and wouldn't comment further when asked recently about the incident. In a statement after it happened, she called herself the first Latina elected to the city council. Some questioned her claim on that identity, but Zaff says it doesn't faze her.
My mom's side came to this country from Mexico, so on my mom's side I have a big Mexican family. And so I really grew up with a real ethnic Mexican upbringing.
Another challenge this year has been transitioning to a new district.
We have tourism issues, coastal issues, very built out, older communities that we're trying to retrofit and, put in roads, walkability, bike paths.
Zaff says those neighborhoods also come with more involved citizens.
They want their communities to be better. They want to get things done, and I'm trying to work with all of them and be there to support what their goals are and try and get things through the city, which is not the easiest thing to do sometimes.
Zaff also hopes to bolster art programs that have been cut from schools. Her own teenage daughters sing, act, and play the piano, clarinet, tenor saxophone, and guitar.
There is absolutely nothing better in my life than coming home and having dinner and hearing this awesome music, and it's my own children. I mean, it's great. I sometimes get emotional because I think about the lives my children have versus, how I grew up. And the opportunities that other people gave me, and how I've been able to take that, and now I have an opportunity by being a city council member and use that as a platform to get out and hopefully inspire others.
Back at Reality Changers, Zaff is asking students where they want to go to college and telling them they can make it.
Yeah, you felt that there's something inside of you that's different, that you want something different, right?
Even though she wasn't speaking in her council district, she says in some ways she feels more at home here.
I think the kids in here can probably relate to me more than my own kids because they don't really know what I went through. And they never went through anything bad, I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would have a life like I have today when I was your age. So anyway, thanks.
Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
KPBS photojournalist Christopher Maui helped produce that story. The councilwoman represents Pacific Beach, Ocean Beach, and other coastal neighborhoods. We now know the fate of a convicted revenge porn website operator. Today, a San Diego judge sentenced Kevin Bollard to 18 years in prison. Last month, he became the first person ever found guilty of crimes related to running a revenge porn website. Now, users uploaded nude photos without consent of the person pictured. Bollard ran another site where he actually charged hundreds of dollars to take down those photos. This case prompted social media sites like Twitter and Reddit to clarify rules explicitly banning revenge porn. California prison officials may appeal a ruling that forces them to pay for an inmate's sex change operation. A judge ruled denying the surgery to a transsexual inmate violates her constitutional rights. The U.S., Iran, and 5 other world powers will finalize their nuclear plan by this summer. Peggy Pico explains what's next.
It's officially called the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The historic agreement would curb nuclear activities in Iran and lift economic sanctions against the country. Joining me with the details is Middle East and international security expert Rick Epps. And Rick, some key points Iran agreed to in reducing its nuclear activity include reducing and restricting nuclear enrichment. What does that mean?
Well, what it means is right now, currently, they have 19,000 centrifuges. They're going to be reducing that number down to 6,104, of which only 5,060 can be allowed to be used for enrichment. Enrichment is simply the process by which you develop the byproduct of plutonium to make a nuclear weapon. What they're being asked to do is to enrich to only up to 3.67%, which is the max you can do for civilian purposes. And they've agreed to that number. So that's what keeps it in, allows you to have peaceful nuclear fuel, but not for weapons-grade material.
Well, they also agreed to extend the current breakout time to make a uranium weapon from 2 to 3 months to 1 year.
Exactly.
And they said some facilities will be changed. What facilities are we talking about, and how will they change?
Okay, well, particularly the Fordow facility, which is basically built into the side of a mountain, which we found out about 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. What they've said now is that they're going to restrict that completely, that for 15 years that will not be allowed to enrich any uranium. And then they have 1,000 centrifuges there now they can use for research, but they will not let them use it for anything else. The other facilities are also going to be whittled down and modified for research purposes, but not for centrifuge enrichment.
And the plan also calls for the UN to monitor compliance, and Iran promises to redesign, as you mentioned, that second newly built reactor and reprocessing facility, as you said, to be used, not to be used for research and development, correct?
It was going to be used for research and development, but not
instead of making nuclear weapons.
Exactly.
Aside from reducing nuclear attacks or the threat of nuclear attacks and lifting the sanctions, why is this deal so important?
Well, you know, one of the things about this is that, you know, I mean, we created the Iran we live with today. Let's be candid about this. We created this Iran in 1953.
You mean the U.S.?
The U.S. through the CIA for forcing out a democratically elected leader who was Mohammad Mossadegh, that led to we reinstalled the Shah, led to the revolution that led to the theocracy we live with today. So we created this monster ourselves, to be honest. Now, the groundbreaking part of this is that we have been at odds with Iran for decades, and for us to be able to, and with the Rouhani regime also behind us in this endeavor, and I believe Rouhani is really making strides to make this happen. He wants this, and so do the Iranian people. In Tehran, they were celebrating in the streets last night, all over the country. Yes, there are people who still have other issues, but to be honest with you, this is a great first step. It's not a perfect agreement, but it's a great first step, and it's a tip of the iceberg to something that would allow for stability in the Middle East, and then we get to a point of diplomacy where we can start dealing with some of the other greater threats in the Middle East.
The U.S. and European Union will suspend sanctions if Iran complies and it's verified of their compliance with this agreement.
Exactly.
How soon could that happen, and what happens if they don't comply?
Well, a couple things. June 30th was the tentative cutoff date. And I say tentative because if we're getting close to a deal, they're not going to subvert a deal if we're getting down that road. And in that, there's a lot of politics to be played with that, and certainly that's the greater concern here is in the U.S. How is the conservative Congress going to play this? Are they going to use it for their own political gain as opposed to looking at the reality of the potential of this deal, and also the peripheral, the states, other nation states in the region who don't want to see Iran in a better light than they do right now for lots of other reasons. If the deal doesn't get done, I don't think even if it doesn't get done right now that we're not going to continue the effort.
Well, what I mean basically, so we're looking at June 30th for this tentative cutoff date, but if Iran fails to comply with what they've agreed to, will sanctions be restored?
Oh, absolutely. That's why it really is a no-win. There really isn't a lose in this situation, because when you look at it, we can make the measures even more punitive if we choose to. But in Iran's interest, they recognize now, and I think they really understand that the nuclear weapon deal of having a nuclear weapon is not the best path to diplomacy and economic gain. If you want to be a player in the global system now, you have to come with it at an economic way, and I think they recognize that.
Okay, let me ask you this. You've got about 15 seconds to answer this. Some hardline critics say this tentative deal is not a good thing. No. What is their argument, and is this a stable deal? Will those critics be able to unseat this deal?
Well, hopefully they won't. In Iran, the hardliners say they've given away that Iran's given away too much for it, and the people in Iran and the Ayatollahs say absolutely that's not true. That in fact that we really gain a tremendous amount of advantage with building our economy out of this, and I believe they're right. I believe the economics and the political system will be in better shape after this is done.
All right, Rick Ebbs, thanks so much for the update.
Good to see you, Peggy.
The government's latest employment report shows job gains were far lower than expected last month. Analysts say the extended winter was a factor, but slowing exports and stagnant home sales also added to the downturn. Labor Department says employers added 126,000 jobs in March, the lowest number since December 2013. The national unemployment rate remains at 5.5%. Good Friday may be one of the holiest days for Christians around the world. There are nearly 1 million Roman Catholics in San Diego and Imperial counties. KPBS reporter Matt Bowler shows us where some in San Diego traced the final steps leading up to the death of Jesus Christ.
In the Catholic tradition, reenacting the crucifixion is an old custom. And here at Our Lady of Guadalupe in Barrio Logan, the faithful play every role from Mary Magdalene to Jesus Christ. Father John Author says this custom plays a key role in the religious life and the cultural life of the Barrio Logan community.
To reenact it matches what we're doing inside the church, which is to read about the Passion of Jesus today from the Gospel of John.
It's more than just a parade.
And so there's this constant interplay between kind of talking with your neighbors as you walk along and then focusing on what the particular station is as we stop, what's happening to Jesus at that moment.
And every key event leading up to the crucifixion is performed. The holiest day of the Christian calendar, Easter Sunday, will be celebrated with services in nearly every Christian-based church. Here at Our Lady of Guadalupe, they expect a full Mass from sunrise to sunset. Matt Bowler, KPBS News.
California's water crisis leads the governor to demand a 25% reduction in usage. San Diego dumps its cap on taxi permits, and the Padres in the playoffs. This could be our year. I'm Mark Sauer. Join me for the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
Broadway star and Tony Award winner Ben Vereen is in San Diego this week. He talks with Peggy Pico about his upcoming projects.
The musical theater winners of the San Diego Ben Vereen Awards will move up to the Southwestern Regional Competition, and if selected there, will move onward to New York, where the two winning high school students will get to perform on Broadway. Ben Vereen, welcome back to Evening Edition.
Thank you for having us, and thank you, San Diego, for supporting the BVA, because it's important for our children that we embrace them, especially now when we need the arts more than ever.
Well, let's talk about that, because this competition, you're in town for this competition.
Yes, I am.
What is this competition about?
The competition, there's two. One is a competition for the Nederlanders put out a list of plays or musicals that these high schools that can afford them put on. We send out adjudicators. They pick two from each play. They come to my awards and they compete to go on to New York. They win $1,000 to go on to New York to win $10,000. Now this year, what we've done is added an initiative called Wellness Through the Arts. And what it is, I noticed that in these schools, especially inner cities, that the arts are cut out of their school. So I said, how can we address that? So what we've done is start an essay program where the kids who are living with diabetes, obesity, low self-esteem, bullying, they write a 2-page essay or a 2-minute video. The best ones get 5 are selected. They get $500 and they get to come to the BVA and rub elbows with kids who are in the arts. You never know where some child may say, I want to sing next year. I want to go to the one in New York City. That's how I started.
Yeah, and writing is an art as well.
Exactly.
So,
life is an art form, and we forget that.
I think a lot of people do. Now, what do you enjoy most about working with these young performers?
They are our future. And so we must give them the tools that they need in order to make our lives better and their lives spectacular.
The last time you were here, you were in San Diego to talk about this one-man show that you were performing, Stepping Out. How'd the national tour go on?
It's going great. Matter of fact, we're moving it on to become a Broadway show, and hopefully I want to start it here in San Diego. It's called From Brooklyn to Broadway.
Oh,
and so,
excellent.
Yeah, so we're doing that. And it's all about the arts. It's all about encouraging the young people. My story is to inspire. And that's why I do this thing at the BVA. When Joe called me, at the Broadway, San Diego Broadway, when Joe Cabana called me, I said his name wrong.
Sure, that's
You'll
okay.
cut that right.
Joe.
Yeah. He called me.
Right.
And he said that they asked, for me to come down. They called my office and they changed it to Ben Vereen Awards. I was honored. I was quite honored because they do such great work. These people do fantastic work, and they really are interested in our children. They're interested in the future of the theater, of the arts, because they recognize the fact that life itself is an art form. You'll hear me say often, in the beginning, the Bible says, in the beginning God created. It did not say in the beginning God manufactured. So therefore, we are all creative aspects of that which created us.
Now, you showed up with a spiritual enforcer hat on. You've also got this flute. Tell us about this flute.
This flute is from a company called High Spirits, and I call it my spirits flute. And I play it just to calm myself down. And you'll see me on videos of this playing the flute, just for peace centering down. That's all. That's all. Would you like to hear something?
All right.
Would you like to hear something?
Just a little.
It's a little bit. It's a little bit.
Right.
Okay.
See, I feel calmer already. I feel calmer.
How do you feel
already.
out there? You feel calmer? Have a blessed day.
That's an excellent way to go. I do want to ask you about some of your future, though. You did a movie, Top 5, with comedian Chris Rock. How was that?
It was exciting, and it was hysterical, because Chris is a very funny guy, and the cast is an amazing cast. I also have a film coming out on 9/11, September 9th, September the 11th.
Right, and what's that movie? Is that the one with Richard Gere?
That's with Richard Gere. It's called Time Out of Mind, where we play two homeless guys. We don't blame it. It was directed by Oren Moverman, who gave us Rage, Rampart, and The Messenger, and it really deals with a life, in a day in the life of these two homeless guys. What I call it a modern day Midnight Cowboy. It's that sort of,
certainly.
That
for anybody who saw that, it sort of gives you a good feel for that.
Yes.
I just want to end here on these awards back here in San Diego.
Please.
When will you announce the winners, and when will they move on?
Well, we'll announce the winners. I think Monday we're going to make the announcement, but at the show, that's when we'll say the two that are going on to New York. We did well last year, and we're going to do even better. We go from here down to Tucson, and from Tucson we go to.
All right.
Well, this is the southwestern region, so we are embracing our children for the arts.
For the arts in the future. Actor Ben Vereen, thank you for the update, and thanks for seeing you. Thanks for joining us again.
My pleasure.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next News Hour. Ahead of opening day, how America's pastime is becoming more diverse. That's Friday on the PBS News Hour.
As we just saw, it's time to play baseball, and the Padres made plenty of moves this winter. I met with San Diego sports writer Jay Paris at Petco Park today for a season preview. Now, Jay, behind you, we've got the new HD video board, 61 feet high, 123 feet wide. Is this going to bring in more fans, or?
You know, it'll add to the entertainment value and baseball, certainly in the entertainment business. And the Padres are, any way they can make that ballpark experience better, they're going to try. I think the biggest thing about the big scoreboard is it's not going to show a bunch of zeros under the Padres this year with all those bats they got in the offseason. And maybe they can put some crooked numbers up on that fancy scoreboard, and that would really make the fans happy.
For the first time ever, Padre fans will now have to walk through these metal detectors, Jay, and also have their bags checked.
Right.
Has the team secured enough metal to make these fans happy once they get in?
Well, I think so. They've certainly been busy enough this offseason to do so. And as we say, with the metal detectors, that's being put in all around Major League Baseball. You used to just have to worry about getting hit in the head with a foul ball. But, these are the times that we live in. They have done enough to make a difference, and they've spent some money as well to bring this team really to be more competitive.
Speaking of competition, I was looking at an AP study that said the average salary for baseball players now tops $4 million.
It's just a reflection of the industry, really. Baseball's become a $9 billion industry. It's really latched on to streaming games and the internet. A lot of people want to say baseball's dead, but really this new technology has brought baseball back up. Padres, while their payroll didn't go up significantly because Matt Kemp's big contract, a lot of it's being paid by the Los Angeles Dodgers, they did give James Shields, the star pitcher, a 4-year deal for $75 million. So that's getting closer up to $100 million, that payroll. But when you're playing with the Beverly Hill Boys and the Dodgers, they're up about 280, and the Giants have more as well. So while the Padres' payroll's coming up, it's still not quite up there with the big ones.
Well, Jay, we've seen the security changes. We've seen the big screen. And there are also going to be some changes when it comes to parking for fans coming to the ballpark. They're going to lose 500 spots right here at Imperial and Park in front of the ballpark. They're suggesting using public transit,
right?
But there's a bigger backstory, right?
Well, this is area is owned by JMI Realty, which is John Moores, the former owner of the Padres, and his plan is to build two pretty significant high-rises here, hotel, office buildings, retail mix, and really develop this prime property right across the street. That's great for him, but Padre fans are going to have to know that maybe they're used to parking across the street and walking right across the street. They're going to lose about 500 or so spaces here.
Padres open the season Monday in Los Angeles against the Dodgers. The home opener at Petco Park is Thursday against the Giants. Well, it will feel cooler for the Easter weekend on Sunday especially. 70s by the beaches tomorrow, then it cools into the upper 60s on Sunday, a mix of sun and clouds inland with temperatures in the 80s tomorrow, then dipping into the 70s and upper 60s. Cooler and breezy in the mountains with sunshine. Warmer in the desert. We're looking at temperatures in the 90s and upper 80s. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend.